This is an iPhone 12 with liquid cooling. It's not something Apple has ever done, and despite what the name suggests, this device isn't going to help you cool down if you're overheating. No, this is actually designed to do the opposite. You see, phones like the iPhone 12 are packed full of incredibly powerful components. The processors inside these devices are basically miniature computers that can perform billions of operations every single second while remaining relatively small and light. But the problem with all this power is that it generates heat. Lots of heat, and if your phone overheats, it can cause some serious problems. Not only can it slow down performance, but it can even damage the battery or other internal components. So how do we keep these tiny processors from melting down? Well, almost all phones use some sort of passive cooling system, just a bunch of metal components arranged in a certain way to efficiently draw heat away from the processor and into the body of the phone where it can be dissipated. But this isn't always enough. In fact, it rarely is. If you really want to keep your phone cool, you need active cooling, a fan that can physically move heat away from the processor. I know it sounds crazy, but adding a fan to your phone isn't a new idea. There were phones with fans back in the early 2000s. These days, though, they're much more common in Android phones than iPhones. That's because iPhones rely so heavily on their batteries. All that power needs to go somewhere. So Apple designs its phones to run cooler and quieter by default, even if it means slightly worse performance. But what if you don't care about performance? What if you just want your phone to be cool and quiet? Enter the Mod Ultra, a case made specifically for gaming on the iPhone. It's thick, bulky, and probably not very pocketable, but it comes with one key feature, a built-in fan that can keep your iPhone as cool as ice. It's not cheap, but this thing is a powerhouse. A single USB-C cable powers both the phone and the fan, which uses ball bearings to spin it up to 12,000 RPM and move air through two ducts that run along the side of the case, blowing cold air directly onto the iPhone's processor. Now, the fan doesn't run constantly. Instead, it ramps up whenever the phone starts to overheat, which is why you can still hear the worry of the fan when I am not actively using it. The result? Sustained performance. Normally, an iPhone will start to throttle performance once it reaches around 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but the Mod Ultra can keep the temperature low enough that the phone never needs to throttle. This means you can play games longer, take higher quality photos and videos, and generally push your phone harder without worrying about overheating. But the best part is that the Mod Ultra doesn't just look good. It also keeps your phone safe. You see, most phones have safeguards built in to prevent them from overheating. They'll stop performing at full power and instead enter a state called throttling, basically lowering the performance until the phone is cool enough to operate normally again. This is a great safety feature, but it can be annoying if you're in the middle of doing something important. But with the Mod Ultra, there's no need to worry. Your phone will never get too hot if you're using this case. That might sound like overkill, but trust me, it works. Let's run a test. We'll use this top left line graph to measure the CPU temperature, the top right to measure the ambient temperature of the room, and the bottom two lines to measure the temperature of the air being blown out of the Mod Ultra S vents. Now let's run a benchmark test that will push our iPhone as hard as possible. As you can see, the temperature climbs steadily, but the fan doesn't kick in until it hits around 96 degrees Fahrenheit, right at the threshold of Apple's automatic throttle. At this point, the fan is spinning at around 6,000 RPM, moving a steady stream of cool air through the case. As the test continues, the CPU temperature climbs even higher, but it's clear that it's not going to hit the danger zone. Even after 20 minutes of non-stop benchmarking, the hottest the phone ever gets is around 104 degrees Fahrenheit, comfortably below the temperature that would cause any damage. And although the room temperature does climb slightly due to the fan, that's to be expected. The real impressive part is that the air being blown out of the case stays consistently cool throughout the entire test. Basically, this thing just moves heat around really efficiently. It blows the heat out of the case and into the room before it has a chance to build up and cause any problems. Now here's the real test. Playing PUBG Mobile under the hottest conditions possible. This game is notoriously demanding, pushing the iPhone's graphics and CPU to the limit and generating a ton of heat in the process. Let's start by running the game without the Mod Ultra and see how it performs. After just a few minutes, the phone is already starting to feel warm and the frame rate has dropped from 40 to 30 frames per second. Now let's turn things up to Ultra HD and run the benchmark test again. This time the frame rate drops even further and the phone is uncomfortably hot after just a few minutes. Clearly, this is too much for the iPhone to handle. Now let's try the same test with the Mod Ultra. This time the phone remains cool to the touch and the frame rate stays steady at 40 FPS. It's night and day. The difference is insane. And although the air coming out of the vents is noticeably warmer than before, that's just a testament to how much heat this game is generating. Despite the best efforts of the Mod Ultra, the phone does start to warm up a little bit after 30 minutes of benchmarking, but it never gets too hot. And to prove it, let's take a look at the internal temperature. Again, we're reusing an infrared thermometer to measure the temperature of the phone's processor. And once again, we're seeing the same thing. The temperature climbs steadily, but it never gets too high. After 30 minutes of benchmarking, the hottest spot on the processor is only around 106 degrees Fahrenheit, just slightly warmer than the ambient temperature of the room. Clearly, this thing is working exactly as intended. The secret sauce here is the Mod Ultra's custom cooling system, made up of 3 main parts, a pair of copper heat pipes and a 90mm diameter fan. This system efficiently moves heat away from the phone's processor and into the body of the case where it can be dissipated. But the real magic is in the software, a custom app written specifically for the Mod Ultra monitors. The phone's temperature and automatically turns the fan on when it starts to get too hot. That means you never have to think about it. The fan will just run in the background until it senses that the phone is getting too hot. And thanks to the Mod Ultra's custom software, that never actually happens. Now this setup might seem complicated, but it's actually incredibly simple. The entire system fits inside the Mod Ultra case and requires just a single USB-C cable to operate, meaning you can literally just plug it in and play without having to worry about anything else. Plus, it's surprisingly quiet. Even when the fan is maxed out, it's only around 45 decibels, which is about the same as a normal conversation. So you can easily wear headphones and enjoy your games without being distracted by the sound of the fan. Plus, it's not just good for gaming. The Mod Ultra can also improve your camera experience. Let's shoot some video in 4K and then compare it to footage taken with the Mod Ultra. The difference is incredible. The footage taken with the Mod Ultra is much sharper and more stable because the phone's processor is struggling to maintain a high frame rate. It's the same story with still photos. The Mod Ultra allows the iPhone to take higher quality, higher resolution shots without any loss in clarity or sharpness. Basically, the Mod Ultra is like having a second iPhone, one that's specifically designed for gaming and other high-performance tasks. It doesn't change the way the phone looks or feels, but it does unlock a whole new level of performance and capability. Is it worth the price? Maybe not for everyone, but for hardcore gamers and enthusiasts, this thing is an absolute game changer. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.